We are live, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere in Northeast Ohio. I'm Josh McClay, aka O'Malley of O'Malley's Adventure. That's Jack Moore, candidate, City of Massillon, Ward 2, and this is O'Malley Live. I want to thank everybody for joining, whether you're watching live or in post. The number to contact the show is 330-809-1924, or you can email us at o'malleysadventure@yahoo.com. Jack Moore, how you doing, my friend?
Good. How you doing tonight?
Good, good. We're continuing the series with candidates. You are running for Ward 2. Ward 2 has 3 of you running.
Correct.
So another one of those highly contested areas of local government. So we're going to start off. It's the same format as everybody else. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Education background.
Okay, a little bit about myself. Family was originally from Massillon, and then they moved to Houston, and I was born down there. So I had parents and 2 sisters and 1 brother. I'm the only one of my family born outside of Massillon. We moved back up here about middle school, junior high years, and I went to Perry.
You went to the school up the street.
Yeah. Yes, I did, unfortunately. But then, what would have been my senior year, we moved to Massillon.
Okay.
So that was back before open enrollment and before I had a car or anything. So
Right.
honestly, I didn't, after moving from Texas to Perry, then Perry to Massillon, I didn't want to start at another school for 1 year.
Right.
So back then, that's when Massillon had the Adult Education Center, where the old it's a stock market museum now.
Right.
Was the old post office. So
Yeah.
went there. Actually, I went there and was going to sign up for classes, and then I just took the GED test, and they said no need to take them. So
Right.
I did that, and then I enrolled in a Stark State. Did that for a little while. Basically, just decided to work full time. So.
Right.
Actually, the whole time I was at Stark State, I actually worked out at Express Loop on the west side of town.
For Louis.
For Louis.
Yeah.
I've actually worked there from around 1993 till about a year ago, off and on.
Right.
Every once in a while, I'll get bored and I'll just say, "Hey, Louis, I want to work some hours." Or
Right.
every once in a while, he'll say, "Hey, I need a break. Why don't you come out here and help me out?" And I'll do that. So
Right.
I was working at Louis, and then I was working part-time at Bender's downtown.
Right.
And then pretty much any place in Massillon that had a liquor license I worked at.
Right.
I worked Bender's, L'Amour's, Orioles, Alibi,
Right.
all of them.
So now you deliver the goods.
Well, I don't deliver now. I work for House of La Rose. I'm sales rep.
Right.
So we're based out of Brecksville. We're a Budweiser, Yingling distributor. Then we also carry Dad's Root Beer, Bang Energy Drink, a couple other craft beers. We have actually all kinds of product, but it's limited by what county you're into, what I can sell per county.
Right. So what actually got you into the politics of Massillon?
I actually ran for city council back about, probably 12 years ago.
Yeah.
When I lived in Ward 5. I lost in the primary there.
Right.
And then I got out of it. And then, like, around town, I'm a member of American Legion.
Right.
Been a member there for 10 years, Eagles. And that's all I hear. You
Right.
know, people saying this, we need this, we need this. And I said, well, okay.
Right.
You know, I know enough from dealing with the businesses in town and talking to the people. I said, I think I can go in as a non-party,
Right.
Try to work with everybody and actually do what the people are asking for.
Right. Away from the mainstream political jargon, right?
Yeah, I'm trying not to play politics, but it's actually pretty hard when everybody around you wants to play them.
Right. Gotcha. So some of the issues, let's talk a little bit about the taxes. Let's talk about the lighting and stormwater fee first. as far as what's your thoughts on that? Is that the way I phrase the question is, would you consider instead of having separate taxes for lighting, stormwater, whatnot, would you be willing to consider putting them all together and just saying, okay, this is going to be the percentage that we tax the citizens?
Um, that's something honestly to look into. Me from knocking some doors and talking to some business owners, the biggest complaint I get is about the street lighting.
Right.
Now, I don't know if they're talking strictly about the street lighting or if they're talking about the sewer. I don't know if they separate them or if they consider it all one.
Right.
So, I mean, I would consider doing it all as one tax, but
Right.
it had to be looked at
Right.
the different percentages.
Is there any one of them in particular that you would consider maybe just removing altogether?
If any, the street lighting would be
The
the
top
one I
of the
would
list.
look into.
Um, the street tax does have an expiration date. It is not permanent. It's not like the parks. It was a 5-year deal, and I think we are finishing up year 2. Um, what's your thoughts on continuing that, or maybe just making some changes within the budget itself to accommodate more resurfacing?
To be honest with you, to me, it's something that would need renewed. The streets are nowhere near in perfect shape.
Right.
I will say they are better,
Right.
but they definitely still need a lot of work. I see a lot of sections of streets getting done and not the whole street. So
Right.
eventually the rest of the streets are going to need completed.
Right.
Now, I don't know. You put that on a levy. I think the first time it passed was based on the income tax credits and stuff.
Right.
So with that being off the books, I don't know
Right.
if we could pass it again.
Sure. Obviously, catch basins are a huge concern. As you go door to door, is that something that they actually talk about with the streets, or is that something that, because I know certain areas actually have a decent road, but they have basins that are falling in. Do you have areas like that in your ward as far as, or are they pretty much just concerned with the resurfacing?
In Ward 2, there's a few bad ones.
Right.
But like when I drive through other sections of town, like Ward 5 on the southwest side, and even over Ward 6, I see a lot over there.
Right.
Um, them are going to have to be addressed mainly as a safety issue.
Right.
So,
Right.
as far as how to do it, I'm not sure if you want to go around and evaluate them and put them on a best case scenario, or
Right.
start at one end of the town and just work through.
Right.
Safety's an issue, but you also want to do what's the fastest way to get these done.
Right. One of the big problems on my end that we have with the catch basins is when they put steel plates down. If we're plowing snow in the wintertime and you catch one with the edge of your plow, you'll knock that plate off. And if you really don't know it's there and you catch a whole lot of that plate, you'll send it all the way up the road. And obviously, it'll launch it like a frisbee.
No,
Yeah, you don't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we try to keep them marked with flags and whatnot. But when the snow's bad, and you get multiple inches, if you're not familiar with that section, you kind of have to proceed with caution because bad things can happen. So, as far as the plates go, I understand why they put them on, but it used to be that we made sure that we done the ones that had the plates on them first because we wanted the plates off the roads. But I think the catch basin, the stormwater fee that we pay, I don't know, and you hate to say it doesn't generate enough revenue, but the cost of what it's going to take to replace all the basins that are bad, that's going to not just take money, but that's going to be a time issue as well because we didn't do catch basins for, goodness, I bet you it was almost a decade. So if you're not doing them, and then for a period of time before we stopped, um, it was one of those where we tried explaining to the boss that you can't open it up to traffic right away because mortar takes time to
Oh,
set
yeah,
up. It's
definitely.
based on a 28-day curing period for maximum strength, and and that started in '98. So basically, from '98 forward, um, you didn't get um, um, any real basin work done. So that there you're looking at 21 years. Um, Hopefully, something, especially I understand resurfacing, you have to do, but the basins themselves, because then you run into issues with flooding and whatnot. I think that moving forward, the basins would for sure step up into the upper echelon of what needs to happen. Um, let's see. Let's talk about the Resi. That seems to be a very um, wow, that's a bad connection. Uh, a very hot topic right now.
Oh, yeah.
The park board, the past couple of those that I went to, the citizens are starting to bring forward a lot of input, and the park board members are very interested now in listening to what the people actually want. So, what's your thoughts on the Resi? Should it? They had option 1, 2, and 3, but I don't know that those are still available. What's your
Well,
thoughts?
well, that's my thought. You had the three options to completely restore it. To be honest with you, I can't see getting the funds to do it if we wanted to do it.
Right,
So to me, that one's off. As far as option two, the pond or whatever order they were in,
right,
that one's the one I lean towards. I think we could do that reasonably,
mm-hmm.
and then have a nice green area with the pond. Um, but like, there's got to be options. I mean, we don't. You could do a fishing pond. That would be like my first choice, but with the budget, you might like a nice reflecting pond.
Right,
With a fountain would be nice.
right,
Um, there's been talks about memorials there.
right,
And I thought, maybe do a reflection pond with some memorials.
right,
There's some deserving people from
sure,
Massillon that,
right,
I mean, I don't want to leave it the way it is right now. I think, when you knock down all the grass and everything, it does look decent, but the weeds come right back up.
right,
It's, as far as even, I've gone down there with my wife walking the dog, and it's a soppy mess.
right,
We need to evaluate what we can do. I'm sure the prices has changed since some original quotes were made.
right,
Work with somebody to see, do it at the beginning of the season, the end of the season when work's slow.
right,
Some people that want to keep their guys working a little bit longer. I mean, there's 100 options we can look at, and just as a group between
right.
the city, between the parks, come up with something suitable.
Okay. Um, at the hospital, another hot topic.
Oh, definitely.
The VA apparently is supposed to be looking at it, but a little bit of conversation off camera. The which building are they actually talking about? Kind of
Yeah.
is one of those things. So what's your thoughts on the VA?
Well, that's my biggest concern is, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy to have the VA come in. As a member of the American Legion, a lot of these older veterans trying to get up to Wade Park
Right,
it's an ordeal.
right,
We've had people volunteer to take passenger vans up there, try to get group schedules so they can all go up at the same time. So
right,
I definitely want a VA clinic.
right,
I want a VA hospital, but
right.
the term that's gone around a lot is clinic. Now,
Sure.
to me, a clinic's 2,500, 3,500 square foot. You have several thousand square foot of the hospital.
Right,
So my question is, are they looking at the hospital? Or are they looking at one of the professional building that's on Amherst? Are they looking over at 8th Street building?
right,
Or, because I can't see dividing it up, the hospital.
right,
There makes no sense.
right.
So
possibly looking at a doctor's hospital 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, with it being right there and the money we're putting for security and maintenance, and there's got to be, we need more, basically, we need more information on what the VA is interested in doing before we can make up any kind of decision.
Right.
Now, to me, if the VA doesn't want the actual hospital building, then we got to move forward with something, because to me, that's about the last chance we have. We offered it to every other hospital network, and nobody's biting.
Right. And even though I know they talked about not putting any more money into the maintenance of it and whatnot, but the taxes and all that, those would still come due.
No, absolutely.
So it's not like we would be able to just back away from any money being put into it. So again, that's another, hopefully that pans out, because, well, they started tearing down doctors this week, so
Yeah.
don't really want to see that kind of eyesore. I think doctors closed in 2008.
Yeah, see, like my thoughts right now is, if we have the money from selling the other buildings, then if nothing is going to go in there, and like I said, I would love for the VA to take it over, but
Right.
if nothing's going to go in there, then we need to look at the cost of tearing it down while we have some money.
Right. Bringing business to Massillon is a sort of it's an interesting topic right now, because there was a lot of discussion about what's been brought here in the past. And without getting into that end of the woods, what's your thoughts on bringing business to Massillon now, as far as from here moving forward? You talk to business owners. What's the
I think we got to become more welcoming.
right?
For example, I was walking through businesses, just introducing myself, and it's somebody that I don't deal with. Went in, introduced myself, and I asked them, so, as far as, health department, building inspectors, what was your hard problems you dealt with? What went over smoothly? And the lady I was talking to, her answer to me was, she says, after we opened, she goes, I put $100,000 into this. She goes, I asked if we could do a ribbon cutting ceremony or something. She goes, and the answer was, we don't do that. Now, to me, and let's say Ward 2, which includes downtown, it includes the area on Amherst.
Right.
If somebody comes to me and says, hey, Jack, I just put $50,000, $20,000
Right.
into opening up a business in your ward, can you come do a ceremony?
Right.
My answer is, I'll bring the punch and the cupcakes, I mean,
Right.
I'm going to come. I appreciate you.
Right.
I'm going to tell people to come that can use your services.
Right.
And I just think we got to start going out of our way to welcome people into town.
Sure. That's not, wow. Anyway.
Well, plus also we got to get these landlords that own the buildings to do a reasonable rent.
Right.
Well, that and maintenance.
And maintenance, because there are quite a few eyesores. I keep talking about I think the McClymonds building is probably my favorite building downtown. And I asked most of the candidates what they think about making those like flats or apartments or downtown living. What's your thoughts on that, as far as housing and giving the business owners that option of taking some of the buildings that are kind of and make them into living space?
I mean, I've been up in a couple of the buildings, and it will require a lot of work, but I'm 100% for it. If I didn't have my dog, and me and my wife have talked about this, we would rent a loft.
Right.
And part of the thing is also with downtown, we need the parking to make that happen.
Right.
But if we could get things upstairs of them empty buildings, that would be
fantastic.
A humongous win for the city.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about downtown and maintaining the infrastructure. Right now, we've got the the streetscape project going on, one of my concerns is there's no doubt in my mind that that's going to look fantastic when it's done. I have no doubt. But I know as far as the department goes and maintaining it, there's going to be some issues there. So the question's actually twofold. What do you do with a somewhat anemic street department, and how do you maintain the downtown roads and infrastructure?
See, like my biggest concern is snow plowing.
Right.
Now, like you were saying about the steel plates,
Right.
you're not gonna have that, but it's gonna be tight getting through there in
Right.
the snow, especially when things are covered.
Right.
I mean, right now, some of our regular intersections in the city are tight to get through with a snow plow.
Right.
So, like today, I was driving through Canton and the bump outs. You
Yeah.
can actually see where they've been hit, where they're chipped up.
Right. And that is probably, I think, one of the biggest worries that we have right now with the current layout is the bump outs. Not that they're a bad idea, but if you're going down through there and you catch it with a plow, I mean, eventually there's damage.
No,
And the
absolutely.
damage either happens to the plow, which costs money, or the concrete itself. I don't know. Hopefully, there's some rethinking of how we maintain it, because if we go around them, like right now they have small ones, you kind of move out like a foot and a half. Well, anytime you go left and you have your plow down, it leaves that snow right there. So if you go around them the way they're designed now, you're going to run into a situation where people won't be able to cross the street because there's going to be a big windrow of snow. And which leads me into the staffing of the department. I'm not saying that we should go back to the 90s level. I mean, that's fantasy land. We're not going to have that many people in the department. But currently we have 10. And I say this not so much out of concern for my department specifically, but across the board. If you look at Perry, Jackson Township, they all have about the same number of miles of road. They have more people, and they get help from the county and the state.
No, absolutely.
We're a municipality. We're responsible for all of it. So what's your thoughts on the street department as far as the staffing goes?
As far as the staffing, I mean, it's definitely way down. I
Right.
mean, you can't argue that. My biggest concern with even street department, the wastewater, I've had friends get jobs with the city
Right.
that are knowledgeable, know what they're doing,
Right.
learn their jobs, and then they leave
Right.
to go to better paying jobs
Right.
with better benefits. I think, we got to look into the contracts, figure out how we can keep the knowledgeable people around and
Right.
still attract people. And, maintenance prevents a lot of damage.
Right.
So we got to, I agree with you. When downtown's done, it's going to be nice,
Right.
but I don't want it tore up in 2 years.
Right. And that's because once you put that in place and it does start to deteriorate and look bad, that's going to create a whole new set of problems. And I think one, being in sort of economic recovery like we are, you don't want to start creating speed bumps and sort of shoot yourself in the foot. But as far as the streetscape goes, real quick, everybody's kind of rolling the dice and putting their bets in. Do you think it's going to be done by the 28th?
I was down there Monday and Wednesday this week.
Yeah.
So yesterday and Monday, walking around.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I personally can't see it. There's still a lot of bricks to be laid. There's still, got the crosswalk gone through. Then you got to do the actual street. Then you got to do the planters.
Right.
My guess would be mid-November.
Right.
And I don't want to rush it to get it done.
Right.
I mean, the business owners down there, they're ready for it to be done.
Right.
I want it done, but I don't want to lack quality to push it
Right.
through.
Yeah, you don't want to get into a lot of shortcuts with something like
Yeah.
that because that would turn around and you would be back next year, and
Yeah.
that would really upset people. That wouldn't be good. Um,
Because even the bricks, I'm looking at them, and you can see pictures where you have some unevenness. I'm
right,
like, what if when the plow comes through there, are we gonna go through with the plow up a little bit more, or are we gonna?
right.
That's
Proceed with caution.
yeah,
Yep. Well, and the thing is, the first couple times you go through an area like that, you'll know quickly whether or not it's going to work out. So, the guy that we currently have downtown, he's pretty decent with how he does things. So, I don't think initially what'll happen is it'll be when he can't come in and somebody else is down there. That's gonna maybe get a little hairy, a little sketchy. But anyway, where do you want to see Massillon in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think right now Massillon is at a point where we can stay flat or we can start growing. I mean, to me, the layout's there.
Right.
I mean, you got Shears building the new plant over there, Millennium. You got 2130, Access 77. We have, with the streetscape, we have an opportunity that if we push hard enough, we can draw some new business in, but
Right.
we can't wait for them to come to us.
Right.
We're going to push. If we push, we could start now and start growing.
Right.
Like I've said before, we need a council that can work together and just have an eye on the prize.
Right.
And say, this is where we want to go. I don't care who comes up with the idea. If it's a good idea, let's support it.
Right.
You know.
Well, that in Massillon is sort of in a really unique situation where you've got 2130, 172, 241, a rail system.
No, that's what I'm saying. We have.
It's almost you would almost ask the question, how can it not?
No, that's what I'm saying. We have all the tools
Mm-hmm.
there. We have the land. We have the railroads. We have the highways. We can. There's no reason we can't start growing.
Right. So, last question: what specifically is your main goal as far as what you want to do when you get into council? Is it more tax based? Is it more people based? Is it more community involvement based? What?
Honestly, I'm more people and community involved.
Right.
I do look at the taxes because
Right.
You got to make it affordable to live here.
Right.
But I'll pay a little more. Well, when we pass the road levy,
Right.
That told me the city of Pitt Massillon people. I said I'll pay a little more to make my community nicer,
Right.
and I feel that's how most of Massillon is.
Right.
So we got to focus on what's best for Massillon, and the Massillon people will work to
Right.
make it happen. I
Sure.
really think Massillon's town that'll sacrifice and work to get where they want to be.
Right. One last question, because it's another one of those things that sort of jumped on the list. Animal control. What's your thoughts on animal control?
You know what? I honestly believe we need it. I mean,
Okay.
if you look at Facebook,
Right.
5 posts a day of people posting pictures of dogs.
Right.
I don't know. When Vicky was around, I've had dogs on my street that were other people's dogs that I tried to get,
Right.
and that woman had a knack. She could get up and
Right.
dog would jump right in her van.
Right.
We need another one of them.
I was gonna say for sure she was an animal person. She very, like I said, there was a couple times down at the shop. When she got things that were trapped and whatnot, she would cut them loose. It's a special type of person that does that job.
I'm a pet person.
It's not just going to be your average Joe that qualifies for that
Yeah.
position. But that's all the questions I have this evening. I appreciate you coming on. If you do have anything coming up before the election, as far as events, places you're going to be.
The only event I have right now, and I'll give a quick plug if anybody wants a ticket for the Eagles Drawdown. I believe that's the 28th. I think it's the last Saturday of the month. $50 steak dinner drawdown.
Is it
We still have a few tickets remaining. And that's about the only event that I'm attending that I know of.
right? Um, but that's all I have. Tomorrow evening, we will have Paul Manson on the show, and there's a few others that are uh, still on the fence as far as getting back to me with a time. But it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Pleasure.
Any time you want to come back before the election, as long as it's next week, the schedule is wide open. But that is a wrap, my friend. We're going to check out. Again, tomorrow evening. Tomorrow's at 4 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. Paul's going to be here at 4. But that's a wrap. Until next time, stay sharp, keep a tight shot group, and rock on.